And with that, we welcome you into lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. We are broadcasting on Facebook Live 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, having a chance to keep you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and different members of the Lewis and Clark College community, and archived on YouTube, youtube.com/lcpios. You can find our entire playlist dating back to the last day of March on that channel. Hi, everyone. I am Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon, and a member of the Northwest Conference, competing with other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington. And with over 430 institutions across the country in the NCAA Division III ranks, we have opportunities to compete on a nationwide scale. Lewis and Clark also sports a very robust opportunity for our students and student athletes alike to travel across the world with our overseas study program. And that is something that we will bring up with our guest today. We're expecting to talk to rising junior from Pioneers Golf. Kamryn Ford will join us. She's from Medford, Oregon, which is in the southern part of the state, now up in Portland, in fact, currently interning. So we'll ask her about what she's been doing over the course of the summer, especially on the heels of a spring season where the golf season was canceled. She was the Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year during her first year and now is entering her junior year, her upperclassman years too. We'll talk about her experience overseas study in Spain, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 days, in fact, because it's very golf heavy with Kamryn today. We'll have Nick Lombardi coming up tomorrow. We do invite you to get connected with the show in the Facebook comments below. Be sure to leave us questions, or even if you have a suggestion for a future guest we should have on the show. Again, we're looking for current student athletes, coaches, or alumni, plus other members of Lewis and Clark College community. Please let us know, and we would love to invite them on. You can connect with us too on Instagram and Twitter. Both of those, our handle is LC Pioneers, and we'd love to see and hear from you there as well. Do want to give a big congratulations to our Lewis and Clark tennis programs. Both were named ITA all academic teams, and then also 10 different Pioneer student athletes were named scholar athletes by the ITA. And so that was a pretty impressive group. 5 from the men's team, 5 from the women's team. And you can read about that right now at lcpioneers.com. And as I mentioned too, our YouTube playlist continues to get updated. Interviews already this week. Had the opportunity to talk to head football coach Jay Losi yesterday. From softball, Lisa Kumasaka to start the week. She's a recently graduated senior, so you can find all of those to watch on demand at youtube.com/lcpios. Certainly have you visit there, as well as our website, lcpioneers.com. We do have information on our website right now at lcpioneers.com/COVID, and that is a link to athletic specific and athletic facility specific areas of the reopening for fall 2020. The Lewis and Clark website is linked there as well for general college information. And yesterday, the Division III fall championships were canceled by the NCAA. That has not modified any of the fall plans for the Northwest Conference. So do keep that in mind as of this moment. Still going forward with cross country, golf, and tennis seasons from the Northwest Conference. We will certainly update you if anything changes at lcpioneers.com/COVID. And so with that, let's bring in our guest for today. Speaking of golf, we have rising junior Kamryn Ford joining us on lcpioneers.com live. Kamryn, thanks for taking the time and fitting us into your workday internship that I'm excited to talk to you about. But I do kind of want to start with the origin story. I mentioned you're from Southern Oregon. What brought you to Lewis and Clark in the first place, and why did you decide to become a Pioneer?
I've always had family up in Portland, so Portland was kind of considered a second home for me. And then I grew up kind of, I guess you would call it, in the middle of nowhere. And so Lewis and Clark and the landscape really reminded me of home, and it was very quiet and very peaceful. And then upon meeting Coach Yen, I was kind of just sold. I met my golf team, and they were absolutely amazing. And the school kind of had everything I was looking for academically, so it was just kind of a dream come true.
Let's start with the golf part. You talked about Coach Yen. I'm curious, just the coaching staff in general. What's it been like to have those individuals as your coaching staff? Coach Yen leading the program. What are some of the aspects that you feel like makes him good at what he does?
Coach Yen is amazing. He always is super upbeat, super positive. Even throughout all this COVID process, he's been doing his best to keep in contact with us and keep us updated as best as he can. He really brings kind of the upbeat excitement to our entire team. Then we also have our assistant coach, Aaron Bendetti, and I mean, gosh, talk about knowing everything about a golf swing to the mental game. He's been pivotal in improving my game on the course and just in practice as well.
Now, I mentioned and the Open, you were Northwest Conference Freshman of the Year. Walk us through that first year because last year, as a sophomore, you missed the fall traveling overseas, which we will talk about. But right out of the gate, a full golf season, and you excelled to the point where you're chosen Freshman of the Year. What did you feel specifically were some of the highlights of that first year?
I think being a part of that team alone was something that was super special. The group of five that I competed with, all of them were seniors. They were all very experienced, very intelligent, and they all really kind of took me under their wing and made me feel really comfortable on the team. They all did a phenomenal job, and coming out of the first tournament, I competed well, and I just kind of grew to learn what it was like to compete in golf in college while also trying to live that college life as well, whether it was going to class, making sure my dorm room was clean, all of that stuff. The team itself was amazing, and we got to play some beautiful courses, and I just felt really welcomed into the entire group.
Now, we mentioned you're from Medford, Southern Oregon, which is considered the Rogue Valley, and there's definitely a line between Southern Oregon and the middle to the northern part from a weather standpoint. The golfing weather in Southern Oregon is more consistent, certainly, than the Northwest. So I'm curious, how do you describe the golf courses in the Pacific Northwest? If you kind of look at that outside Southern Oregon area, how do you persevere through the rain? What are some of those conversations like when you try to tell someone about your golfing in February and March in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I think the first thing is make sure you pack a hair dryer because you're going to be personally drying all of your gear in the hotel room that night. That's kind of how you spend each night in between rounds. But I grew up playing golf all throughout Oregon. I was a member of Oregon Junior Golf. So I played in the Pacific Northwest, I played in Southern Oregon, I played in Eastern Oregon. So I was kind of really used to what this sort of weather would bring to the table. And I'm lucky enough to have great gear that keeps me warm and cozy. And thank the world for hand warmers because I don't know where our team would be without those.
She's Kamryn Ford joining us on lcpioneers.com live, rising junior for Pios Golf and international affairs major. I always like the transition from sophomore to junior year because you get the opportunity now to go to upperclassmen classes. I always feel like you get a really good feel for what your major classes are going to be like. I do want to ask you before I look ahead is let's look back on this last spring though. You had to finish remote as did the rest of the students at Lewis and Clark and across the nation. What were some of the adjustments you had to make? How did you get through that last spring semester?
I'm really lucky to where it's only kind of a 4 hour drive home for me. So the transition to getting home wasn't as tough as for some of my friends who I was carting back and forth to the airport and stuff like that. My teachers did a phenomenal job trying to flip that transition and trying to keep up with the momentum of class. Going home was kind of nice because, I get to spend time with my family. But I mean, it was tough. And saying goodbye to all of my friends who, after just coming back from abroad, I hadn't seen them in close to 8 or 9 months. So it was kind of sad that I was there with them for that short period of time, and then suddenly there was that abrupt like, oh, okay, now we have to go home. So I mean, it was tough, but I applaud our teachers for doing what they could and doing the best that they could do.
So let's look ahead. Coming up junior year, it's going to be another tricky year as the coronavirus has still not gone away. You're planning to go to campus, though. What are you looking forward to most with some of the classes that you have ahead of you?
I'm really looking forward to the new experiences. I'm trying to expand my knowledge and go into different fields of international affairs that I haven't quite studied yet. And then I'm also trying to build upon what I already learned. I actually am taking my first, I guess, laboratory science of the year, so that'll be kind of exciting as well. Whether or not that's online or in person is still to be decided, but either way, I'm really excited to get into that sort of class as well.
And have you had a professor or a class so far through the first 2 years at Lewis and Clark that's really stood out? What have been some of the highlights?
I'd have to say, because I'm an international affairs student, my favorite teachers are definitely Cyrus Partovi and Kyle Laskritz. Both of them are, first of all, absolutely brilliant, but two, they've really challenged me and challenged my abilities in the classroom. They've tested me on debates, with tests, with essays, and I really feel that I've come out as a stronger student from both of them. And they've both given me kind of their own personal stories when it comes to how they came into the field and what they're passionate about. And it's really kind of helped me find my own passions within the major that have helped me kind of move forward as a student.
Now, you mentioned you had the opportunity last fall to participate in overseas study. Why was that something you wanted to do, first of all, and what were some of the coolest moments getting a chance to study overseas?
I wanted to get out into the world because I felt like as a kid I wasn't able to travel as much as I wanted to. I'd been to Europe once before my senior year of high school, and I had basically just completely fallen in love with it, and I really wanted to go back. Um, Being in Spain was probably one of the best experiences of my life. This I stayed in Madrid, and I my apartment was kind of in the middle of downtown. This wasn't an Lewis and Clark abroad program. It was actually something outside of Lewis and Clark. So the people that I met on this trip were completely new people. None of us knew each other going into the program. And I've made, long lasting friendships that will probably last me forever. We traveled together, we studied together. It was just a beautiful experience. And I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to go abroad, probably not this semester, maybe next semester, but moving forward, I would really encourage them to do it because I learned a bunch of amazing things about myself, and I found places that when I'm old enough, I will definitely go back and visit again.
So, walk us through. You mentioned that this wasn't specifically a Lewis and Clark program. Is it still something that helps you get credit at Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, I'm actually in the midst of waiting for my credits to be processed. So basically, what the registrar has you do is you send in all the courses that you want to take, and they will pre screen them. And then they tell you, okay, if you take these classes, if you get above a C, because it's a pass fail sort of deal, then you can more than likely get those credits. And so I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And I'm actually in the middle of getting those credits processed by an outside entity, which is what the school has you do. The entity actually closed down during the quarantine lockdown. So, and I got my transcripts right as they closed. So it was kind of a 3 month waiting game, but hopefully those credits will show up on my transcript anytime now. I've been hoping to get that kind of done with so I can have a weight lifted off my chest.
Well, absolutely. I mean, good luck with that. But it's interesting insight because that was something honestly I wasn't aware of as a staff member. So I wanted to get some insight onto how that worked. We mentioned spring, right? You had your season cut short, so really now the full season of golf's in spring 2019, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I know that with that firsthand experience, it's likely that you're going to have a lot of compassion for those fall student athletes who are going to get to compete. How tough is that? Kind of give us a glimpse inside of, it might strain on mental health and such. What kind of things do you want the fall student athletes to keep in mind based on what you experienced?
Yeah, going back to the spring, as soon as I got back from abroad, kind of the first thing I did was throw myself back into golf. I didn't really have a chance to practice when I was out there. So I really just dedicated the rest of my time up to the season of trying to improve my game and kind of get back to where I was at the end of the spring, my freshman year. The first tournament went well. We had some serious weather issues, but I was really looking forward to the season and really looking forward to seeing what our team could do. And seeing that canceled, it was definitely really tough. We had a senior on our team, and that was really tough to watch. And I know all other athletic groups had that as well. Going into the fall, I am 100% so grateful that our coach has pushed for us to have a season and that Northwest Conference granted that. It's a blessing, and I'm so grateful. And my heart does go out to all of the athletes who don't get to compete this year. I mean, I personally know that athletics is what drives us. It's what builds our confidence. It's what gets us going every day. And so to not have that would definitely be really tough and would be a strain. I hope that all of the athletes who don't get to compete this fall know that those of us who are competing in the spring, in the winter, or even those of us who are lucky to compete in the fall, like our hearts are with you. And if we can support you in any way, we would love to do that because we know the position we are in is incredibly rare right now and incredibly lucky, and we don't want to take it for granted.
Kamryn Ford, our guest on lcpioneers.com live. We are live Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, and you can watch all of our past shows at youtube.com/lcpios. And we did share a link to Lewis and Clark's counseling service in the chat, but we have had conversations on the show specifically about resources for mental health at Lewis and Clark. And as you mentioned, your senior teammate from last year, Annika Klunk, joined us as well. You can find all of those on our YouTube channel. What's ahead for you? You know, we talked about you're joining us from your office. Describe your internship and some of the things professionally that you're seeking out.
I'm currently working for Becker Capital Management. They are a stock brokerage firm here in Portland, Oregon. I'm actually working in the middle of downtown, so it's a great spot to be in Portland. Absolutely beautiful. I'm really grateful that they actually were able to keep me on. I was supposed to start really early June, and I actually didn't get into the office until the first week in July. So it was kind of touch and go there for a little bit, but here I am. The experience has been amazing. Everyone here is brilliant and they've really pulled me in as someone who, and I love learning here. And so hopefully I will move on to something of this field in the future. Starting next week, I will be working remotely so that I can start my 2-week quarantine before coming to school. But it's been amazing, and hopefully looking forward, I can start working at another firm next summer and get some recommendations so that out of college I can just get right to it.
Was that always going to be the path, or did that develop partially because of your first couple years at Lewis and Clark? How did you decide that that was kind of your route?
That definitely developed over time. I was introduced to this internship through family contacts, actually. And then I went through a really extensive interview process and they chose me, which I was really, really grateful for. But upon coming here, I wasn't quite sure if I was ready for it or I wasn't quite sure if this was what I wanted to do. And I have to say, I've completely fallen in love with it. I love everything that I'm doing here. I love the people that I'm working with. And so hopefully I can move forward with this.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts on the struggle that student athletes are likely going through not getting to compete. I, for one, know firmly that the events are why I enjoy what I do the most. And so it is going to be tough not to have as many events in the fall this year. But certainly hoping that your sport, tennis and cross country, can continue competing this fall. And we look forward to seeing you out on the golf course soon. Kamryn Ford, thanks for joining us on
Yeah,
lcpioneers.com
thank
live.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was a fun conversation. Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to compete at such a high level where you continue to compete when you go to the collegiate level, and then all of a sudden, unexpectedly, it's gone. You know, you have to have it gone early, especially for the seniors in their final season. That's particularly tough right now. You know, fall sports seniors who are hoping to see some games come up next spring, which is what the Northwest Conference is trying to do. That's also just as tough, but certainly the finality of what the spring 2020 seniors, we talked to Lisa Kumasaka about that a couple of days ago. That is a significant challenge, I imagine, because it has been long described, especially the longer you do it, even into professional sports, you know, how tough it is where you get retired and now all of a sudden you don't know what to do either with that extra time or your just rhythm is thrown off. So hearing Kamryn talk about, you know, mental health and how, you know, classmates of each other, their peers are supporting them was really great to hear. And as I mentioned, links to the counseling service and other mental health resources at Lewis and Clark in the Facebook Live comments. And you can see some of our past interviews with folks from the counseling service at youtube.com/lcpios. So excited that golf, cross country, and tennis are still moving forward this fall from the Northwest Conference. But if anything changes, we will certainly let you know as soon as we can at lcpioneers.com/COVID. One more interview coming up this week. And as I mentioned at the top, a golf heavy week. Dual sport student athlete Nick Lombardi will join us tomorrow. He is a Pioneers golf student athlete as well as a member of the men's basketball program too. We'll talk to him about the Center for Entrepreneurship and Leadership at Lewis and Clark, how he's been involved in a program called Winterim, and he's already started some entrepreneurial endeavors himself. Plus, appeared on American Ninja Warrior. So we've shared that before on some of our social media. We'll definitely ask him about that again tomorrow. We do have guests booked for next week as well. They include Rising Junior for volleyball. Michelle McGinn will join us, and Francesca Span, who is the NSO director. New Student Orientation will join us as well next week, as New Student Orientation basically gets underway a couple of weeks from now. So we'll see what's on tap for new students who are coming to Lewis and Clark for the first time. So until we talk to you again tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, as we do Tuesday through Friday on Facebook Live, the easiest way to find us, lcpioneers.com/live. I'm Ryan Goff. Big thanks to Kamryn Ford for joining us. Big thanks to you for watching as well. Thanks for having fun with us today, and we will talk to you again soon. For more of the show, watch our past shows, please, at youtube.com/lcpios. And until we talk to you again tomorrow, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
I think everyone should take intro to chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed Education in a Complex World. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai Chirindo. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was International Affairs, just Intro to International Affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.
Lewis and Clark is amazing.
Beautiful campus, small classes.
When you really come here, you get this sense, the feeling that this is a place that you could spend 4 years.
I was so comfortable learning and growing here.
There's no ostentation, there's no pretension, no status. Everyone's just here to learn.
To this bustling metropolitan area.
The overseas program is giving you the opportunity to explore the world, go to places that you never thought of. Just come here, just visit the school, and you're gonna fall in love with it.
It's time to explore Lewis and Clark.